Indie housing market. Get the latest insights right here.
Welcome back to Indie Housing Market. I'm Kyle Morris with Morris Property Group and FC Tucker.
And I'm Shelly Walters with the Shelly Walters Realty Group and FC Tucker.
I'm Stacy Barry with the Stacy Barry team at Century 21 Scheetz.
Man, it's awesome to have you on here. Obviously, you and I have a small connection with my wife, and you went to high school together and everything. I know that you've kept your roots very, very local. And for me, like, I'm from Martinsville originally, and then I moved up here and all this other stuff. But it's really cool to like see what you've done over the years just by like staying like kind of like where you were raised, because like I do like so when I show your houses, like I have this full disclosure, I have taken pictures of your shit and I'm like, I like send it to my admin and I'm like, I need this to happen. You had a house, and it was a house that you were at an IU game. And I was like, yeah. I was like, hey, we're going to write an offer on this. And you're like, I already got one. I was like, shit. But like I took pictures of some of the stuff. So she does this thing that you can.
Okay, wait a minute. Are these the secrets?
No,
it's public display, and I think it's the coolest thing. This is me like just showing like how good she is. Where there's a QR code, and you can scan it so you can sign up for the school alerts for that school system. And I think it's the coolest thing ever. And I'm just like, man, like I am just nowhere near where I need to be as an agent.
I show her those things as well. I love working on the cross deal with
Yes.
you, of course, because we know it's going to be a smooth one. But yeah, your inside display of information is really nice.
It is.
It is really nice.
Because you used to be a teacher.
I did.
Right?
No,
How long were you a teacher?
So I only taught for about 3 years.
3 years. And you're like, I'm over this.
You know what? I never planned on going into real estate, to be honest. I am such
That's everybody who's an agent.
I am just a busybody, and when my coworkers took the summer to like go to the pool or to do other things, I actually went to take 2 master's classes, and I did one of them, and I was like, oh yeah, I did not like it. So I the next summer ended up taking just the real estate class for fun, not realizing, oh my gosh, all of these people leaving are saying what brokerage they're going to. So I just was like, everyone at that point was going to Century 20 at the Crossing, so I was like, okay, there.
Yep.
I didn't even go in for a whole year. Tim O'Connor called me like a year later. He's like, where you been? I'm like, well, I'm a teacher. He's like, why don't you come on in this summer? And that summer I went in and I sold about 3 properties. I was 25. My friends were just starting their first home searches. And sadly, you know, those 3 homes and what I did and what I made, I was like, wow. I mean, this is kind of crazy compared to what efforts I was putting in as a teacher. Ironically, I just got married. I was pregnant, and I honestly couldn't afford a babysitter. So I'm like, this is a job. I took my younger son, Hudson, who just graduated. He's 18. And if you couldn't work with me and my baby for the first 2 years, we probably couldn't work together.
That's
so,
awesome.
yeah.
And you know, that's funny that people say that, because I've never, ever had anybody say no. Now, I'm in the grandchildren stage.
Yeah.
But never had anybody say no, it's not okay. Because if somebody's visiting me, you know, they're not going to cause trouble. They're not going to do anything. They're probably going to be a lot more well-behaved than some of my clients' kids that run around the house. But, yeah.
I mean, I just carried that pumpkin seed everywhere I went. You know, and my office was awesome. If I needed something, I could just drop him by there for a little bit. But, I mean, I'm also a full-time mom. And I think a lot of what I have implemented into my business wasn't always to start off with the business mind at forefront. It was more of like, oh my God, I don't know the lunch menu. What the heck? My kids are home for 2 hours on this Wednesday and I just couldn't keep up. Yeah. So I really started a lot of this stuff for myself. And then, you know, people would see me doing it and be like, can you add me to the list? So I do feel like I have a business sense to know like a good marketing opportunity. And so, but I think because I genuinely did start it with a good heart, wanting to help others. Like that late start in Carmel has really taken off. Like you just sign up and you just get an auto text the night before. Yeah. And I mean, it reminds me every other Wednesday. So really? Anything I've done has been to make my life easier.
And then share it.
And hopefully share it, yeah.
That's fun.
But that's why it works, is because it came from good motives, good intent, and like I think that's why it matters, is because like you're just I think one of the things I always talk about is I feel like we try to, as agents, I try to sell to the consumer based on like what we think the consumer wants, instead of like considering myself as a consumer and what I want. And I think we miss market significantly as agents when it's more about like, how do I consume and what am I looking for? And then just do that. But that's totally kind of against industry standards a little bit of like what we teach, because you have all these coaches and teachers out there in our industry who are saying, do it this way. And like, it's just not that cut and dry, and I just think that is all old. I think that worked in 2008 when social media and all these other things were new, but nowadays people want the intimacy and they want authenticity, and I think that's why I think we're teaching agents incorrectly these days.
Well, and I think whether you're a realtor or a software engineer or an attorney, I think like you're good at your job when you can genuinely enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And I think those are the people who want to work with you. And that's when you really have the most success. So as far as like, honestly, I'm usually a pretty open book when I go and speak or get in front of people, because I'm all about the saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. You know, people love to ask questions and want to learn the ideas, but the implementation is where about 70% of the people just,
they fail.
Any extra work, they're just kind of done.
That's the 80% rule anyway, 80-20, 80% fail and 20% make it. But that's in regards to anybody starting real estate. It's 1 year in the business and, most are gone because everybody does think it's going to be easy on my schedule. It's going to be fun. It's going to be good money. It's going to be all this. And they get in here and they're like, well, who told you that in the first place? That's what I'm always wondering. Where are you seeing this billboard?
I work more than I've ever worked in my life.
And
it's just that I love it. So so my friends have asked this because I'm sure with you, a lot of people ask you about getting into real estate and all this other stuff, right? And so I get a lot of that. Shelly does. And the reason is because, when I've asked my friend, I'm like, man, I just feel like people think if they do this, like it's just going to be easy and they don't know how hard this is. It's because I make it look fun or you make it look fun, but it's because I enjoy what I do. Agree. Right? And so like it looks easier than it is because I just enjoy it so much because it is hard. It is a lot of work. I mean, it is so much freaking work.
Well, and I think it's like anything you do in life, like there's payoff at some point.
Correct.
And I had many, women, and it was really hard for me. I couldn't send my kids to the just Mother's Day Out programs. Like I needed full-time childcare. And, people would be like, well, I mean, you're going to miss this or that. And I never missed anything. But I'll tell you, I came in running, and sometimes I left running and met my husband, with the car seat at his office door, nights.
And you're like, I'll see you tonight.
But, 7 days a week for a handful of years. And now I feel like I'm in an awesome spot. I can really navigate my schedule better and I just have more control. I've kind of built that trust with a lot of my clients. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not missing anything. And I've had a lot of friends that are back in the workforce that, God bless them, they stayed at home for 15 years and now they're kind of starting over, which is cool for them. But that's really hard. And I didn't have to do that.
So yesterday, to that point, like we've all been busy. You said you have a bunch of listings, we did as well, Shelly and I, and like yesterday I had kind of a down day. Like I was like, man, I don't know. I got to do like a couple admin things. Like I had a mutual release I had to deal with, unfortunately. Like I had an inspection response. I mean, I got to do my continuing education, but of course, like, I'm just like, I'll do that tomorrow. But like, I just kind of had like a down day yesterday, which I still worked, but I almost was like, I felt like, am I forgetting something? Or because you can be so,
like you should be.
No, well, you can get so busy sometimes. Like your off day, you have to be very vigilant to pay attention. Do you have an off day?
Yeah.
To enjoy your off day, and so like I was just proud of myself for actually doing it.
Well, many times your off day is not planned.
Correct.
And sometimes your off day becomes taken over. So you have to be very quick to pivot your mindset.
Well, and you were saying too about the situation with having more of a schedule and being a little bit more loose with our schedules or being able to plan a little bit better has come from not having to jump the second a house hits the market.
Yeah.
That 21, 2022, and a little bit of 2023 was an out of control, unscheduled day constantly. And to get back to that potentially here where we're just kind of like, I still find myself sometimes going, but what if this is the one that we do have to jump? So like having the ability to go, well, they say, I'd like to see it today at 4 was always like, or today at 2 and it's 1 o'clock was always like, okay, yeah, we'll figure that out. But now it's kind of like, can we do it tomorrow? But we still don't know. So that's my thing is I would love to schedule it tomorrow, but I'm still afraid this is going to be the house that sells immediately, which they aren't anymore, many of them.
But you're a good realtor. I mean, you're going to take care of your client to get in the door.
Yeah, however we can make it work. It's just, boy, for a couple of years, we had no control over that. And people, I think, that say they want to get into this business need to understand that this is a customer-based service. This is not you're an entrepreneur doing your own job. This is so much customer service, so much. And that can really lead to
Yeah.
you being not in control of anything, but trying to find that control as an agent is where you become a good agent, is being able to find that fine line. And family, you're doing it with a family that's, so I think people listening can see that there's ways to manage it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people say, I waited until she was old enough to stay at home.
Yeah.
That was my youngest going out, and I thought, well, I was able to do part-time work, but I wanted to be able to let my kids be able to come home and stay home, because I didn't think I would be able to juggle like
Yeah.
you did.
They came home. It was just a little chaotic.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I would be gone when they came home.
Yeah.
It also helps that each of us has a team too. That was one of the biggest reasons why I created a team, was not to sell more volume. It was so that we could have better lives within serving people, if that makes sense. Especially because it was so busy back then. Because to your point, it'd be like 10 and somebody say, hey, I need to go see this house, and we'd have to go to that day, go look at it. But then I also had multiple buyers, so then
Correct.
somebody else would say that also, and you're just like, I don't know how we're gonna do all this stuff, right? And you found a way to do it. But this is the first year, spring season, where I felt like usually on Sunday my wife will be kind of like, hey, what's your week look like, right? And I'll be like, oh, it's kind of a down week. And my wife would just joke with me. She's like, the only person who still believes that is you.
Yeah.
Because by Monday at noon, I'm like, hey, week's changed. It feels a little bit better this year, where no, I do think my Thursday's going to be slow this week, right? And it'll still be slow by the time I get there.
It's become more cyclical, like
Correct.
it was before,
Yes.
where it was like Mondays are your catch up, get your week
Admin,
planned,
all that stuff.
crazy day, and then I'm seeing again Thursdays are the day people are listing.
Oh my goodness.
So leave your
yes.
Thursday and Friday open,
Yeah.
because anybody's going to come out of the woodwork and you may not know they're coming. And then you're working through the weekend to get offers in, and and things like that.
Are you still doing that rotation of listing Wednesday, Thursday, and
So during the years past, I was known in the city, put a listing in on Tuesday. Honestly, they were sold by Thursday, and it flowed for everybody.
because you beat everybody? Because I was doing Wednesday, you were doing
I do Thursdays.
Yeah.
Thursday.
And I did beat everyone. But also for my clients, they could kind of plan midweek what to do. But I don't think it's because I want to, but I'm definitely just noticed everybody else was putting them back on Thursdays and Fridays, and I wanted to make sure that my sellers didn't miss that market.
Yeah.
Because everybody else was maybe coming into town Thursday night, prepping for the weekend.
Yeah.
And some of the times we would put them on, I did notice they would go and they'd be I didn't want to be stagnant before the rest of them come
2
on.
days on market by Thursday.
Yeah.
So we do Wednesday, but we don't allow showings till
Yeah.
Thursday to just get that
Yeah.
setup of time and everything. So 2 reasons. One, so agents don't have to run out Wednesday,
Yeah.
hit the market at noon
Yeah.
or whatever, and all of a sudden their buyers all want to see it at 2 and 3. You said this earlier before we started, and we've said this many times, working together as agents to help the process. I do that for that very reason. I want to have the ability for agents to be able to make their schedule tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I just tell my sellers it's better for them as well, because they can make their schedule for tomorrow. And we don't miss showings or get people mad. So we're a Wednesday lister, and then active on Thursday. And I've done it every.
It has gotten more cyclical, and I think it's been this way for buyers for sure. I tend to tell people, pay attention on Thursdays, right? Be very diligent on Thursdays. And then if you're a buyer who needs things, Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Right? Because that means it made it through the weekend.
Yes.
Because people be like, it's still on here on Monday. I was like, it's because office staff hasn't pinned it
Yeah.
yet. So
it's changed though. It's not always like that.
It isn't always like that. So you kind of have to, I still make the phone calls, but it's.
Days on market are going up. We've been talking about that for quite a few weeks.
It came down a little bit this week. I was
did.
surprised.
Yeah,
but we were talking about that. So we were like, when we started talking about the market was changing, we were like, I don't really have enough data to quantify if it's changing. I'm just noticing a trend right now. And then last week we said it looks like it's coming back. And then you're on here, we want to talk to you about what your feel of the market is. And it sounds like it's very similar. It was kind of slow. May was stacked a little bit shorter because we didn't have. It's not like May is a different amount of days, right? But you always had that half a week in May, and we didn't this year. And so it really felt like Mother's Day or Easter and Mother's Day. I know Easter is in April.
It was late this year, though.
It was late, and it was really stacked. It was like Easter, Mother's Day,
It was hard to pick a
graduations.
weekend. It was really hard to pick.
There was 2 of them.
Yeah,
I think that's
or
it.
3 because we had race, we had Mother's Day, and then Easter seemed to be like the last month of April.
And then graduations.
Yeah.
Right. And so we were like, all right, we're through it all. And like what we didn't think about was, and now vacations.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's why you're like, I don't really know if this is a thing or not a thing. And like the data is kind of showing that that is what happened.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I mean, I have boys in sports, so I know IHSAA, that week of moratorium is always right around July 4th.
Mm-hmm.
And then that week right after school gets out is the week before they go back for sports. So, I mean, if you're a family and have kids, those are just 2 weeks people aren't in town. So I tend to it's really strategic on putting that listing in to make sure you get maximum exposure.
It is. And it matters. And so that's what you were talking about. You were saying, like, you know, we've got another 2-week window coming up, and then there's another 2-week window up, and then like we're kind of through kind of the spring market and summer market, and then, but last year's third quarter was disproportionately busy.
It was. Really I was surprised because that was when they started doing all those rate hikes.
Yep.
But I mean, speaking of schedules again, I remember last October also being very weird because now every school on the north side has these fall breaks, and they're all different. And I remember
the whole
being
month
like,
is gone.
oh my
we
gosh.
talked about that last
when
year.
When are
It's
we
like,
listing?
When are we going to get out of the fall breaks?
Yeah.
It was 3 weeks of
It was
fall
forever.
breaks.
Yes.
We actually put it down on a calendar and we looked at
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Like, when can we do this?
Spring break's weird too. Like, so like I'm in Mount Vernon. Like our spring break is like second week of March.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Ooh,
like
wow.
Carmel is like first week of
Yes.
April.
Yeah,
Like,
they
it's
moved it back to
insane.
the second now
Yeah.
week, which for years it was the first week. But I really feel like, I don't know, spring break did not affect me as much this year. But I remember fall break being really hard last year.
People seem to really enjoy that fall break.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't have it. We had 2 days. But I
But
know.
we also had like a 5-month summer, it felt like.
Well, that
Our
too.
summers were pretty awesome. Like
So
when
we're
we were
getting
growing
ready.
up.
We were talking about that. We are into the point now where it's almost July. So we are kind of past the listing stage of getting your house sold before school starts, if we could say that out loud. That's
Yeah.
crazy. So, you know, we're getting ready to go into when we list from now on, you're probably not going to close before school starts in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, you're right. And I think those buyers are going to be out more as well looking for
In the
properties.
next few weeks, yeah.
And it's crazy to think like we're almost halfway through 2025.
Correct.
And you have those people who call you in January, and God bless them. Like someone in their relationship says, call Stacy January 1st, but you can't call her before then. And then it's those people who aren't under contract that know as fall comes, maybe they have more activities or vacations or family trips with regard to like holidays. I think they're going to get a little antsy and needing some things. Like they're going to feel the pressure.
I think so too, which is really interesting too, because one of the nice things about the market is buyers have leverage right now. And like, I think we've all felt it on inspections lately. And like, where will that pivot point be between antsy and asking, right? Because it's like, hey, I have to be antsy, but like, can I still ask for these things? Because I mean, I've put in more roofs on houses in the past year and a half than I did
my
in the
roofing
previous
company,
5.
I think he loves me. I haven't felt the love yet, but yeah, I can't. Crawl spaces too, I've been dealing with a lot.
Yeah.
But
Which is fine. I mean, that's how it should be or whatever.
But we used to have to totally ignore that, right? It's like, oh, buy it if you want, but you're not getting it fixed.
But here's the thing. So some of the houses I've had to put roofs on were people who bought then. I have experienced that. People who bought during COVID and they're like getting hammered on inspection responses because they couldn't ask for things.
Or they didn't.
yeah.
And I didn't
They
represent
waived
them or whatever.
inspections.
Yep.
Yeah.
I also think having an agent, an experienced person, like the connections we all have, because we're coming out of all the crazy town where you didn't have to know as much.
Yeah.
And some of the deals were doing themselves. And so, I mean, everything now has an inspection,
Yep.
a response, and you need to make sure you have like people who know how to work them, how to get estimates, how to advise on like what sometimes people want out of deals on. I mean, actually, your son-in-law, Jeff and I had the craziest thing last December where his buyer bought that house I had and someone passed away in it.
Oh, yeah.
And
we know that one.
The day of
I
the
forgot that was
inspection.
you.
Yeah, hello.
Oh, dude, that was...
And,
I heard about this.
I mean, I think
heard
the
about
entire
this.
city heard about it. And thank God he knew me. And had we not been together
Right.
on that, I think that would have fallen apart.
I think all the time when I'm doing deals, A agent, B agent. This is going to go through with this agent.
Yeah.
The same issues not going to go through
Yeah.
over here, because relationships matter in life.
Yeah.
And they definitely relationships matter here. But I'm not saying it's because I don't know you yet. I'm just saying have the mentality to have that relationship moving forward. That 30 days, make it work.
Yeah.
Like the people that don't try to make it work, they have attitudes or they want to puff their shoulders or be the cool guy in the room. I'm like, this is not how you get your client where they want to go.
Yeah.
But that deal, somebody died in her house, and it was
sad. It's tragic.
It was just
was
weird timing,
unfortunate,
really. Just weird timing.
And
everything.
I could have called someone else freaking out. I mean, they were coming to do the home inspection in 2 hours. They literally were moving the body out. And, Jeff was like, oh my God. I'm like, I know. I'm like, I don't even know what we should do. And, he didn't freak out, but we did disclose and we figured it out and we worked together.
And you just turn to the buyer and go, are you okay?
Yeah.
And
but
the seller, all of it. Yeah.
But it was an interesting 4 hours. And, and
it could have been 2 weeks if it was something else, but you guys worked through it very professionally, and it was just, okay, move on.
To your point of like knowing, like I have all these contractors and vendors that I have relationships with, but everybody is so busy because of inspection stuff these days. I've had to do more extensions on seller responses because like I'll get a buyer's inspection response and they'll be like, oh, here's 3 or 4 days.
You can't do that. That's so
it's
rude.
so hard these days,
That's
but
so
it's
rude.
not, and it's not because, maybe I can get it done, maybe I can't. Like to get good people out there, they're booked out.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, I'll be out there next Tuesday. And I'm like, well, shit, that's 2 days after my deadline.
Yeah.
And so then I have to go and I'll be like, hey, this is the person I think we should really have out there. It'll be beneficial to all parties and all this other stuff. And sometimes agents are like, it doesn't matter, just get some. It does matter who I get out there, right?
Yes, it does.
I mean, I've started even kind of telling my sellers, like, I'm not saying you're going to have to do all this, but if you know of something easy, go ahead and just get it fixed.
100%.
Yeah.
I
Show some sort of workability with the next person in the room,
or
right?
I mean, you're going to be asked for it, so just go ahead and do it. And then also, a lot of people, everybody has a handyman till the handyman doesn't show up.
Yep.
And that's one of the things I think people heavily rely on the realtor for is those contacts. And so I do say, okay, if you have someone you like or a handyman, you may want to give them a heads up. Your house is under contract and you may have a list in a couple weeks.
Yep.
And that way too, I'm like being proactive. But when they end up having to circle back to probably use, fortunately, I have people. Unfortunately, they're not always the cheapest because they respond quickly, they show up,
you pay for the service.
they do a good job, and so I always have them provide an estimate as well. So I think that's also, I'm definitely seeing that. It's just being proactive.
I did get one. I got one yesterday, or when did I get this? I got it Friday or Saturday, and the other agent. They were like right at the deadline for their response, right, of their 14 days. But when she sent over the inspection response, it had a fully detailed quote from somebody already. I had that already in my back pocket, worst case scenario, which helps speed up things.
Oh, I always do that. Always.
See, I don't do that. I feel like my sellers want to.
You can.
I know you can. And I mean,
yeah, it's not.
Either way works.
Yeah.
And I probably need to start doing that because I'm finding other people will come back and be like, oh, we didn't even get an estimate on that.
Yeah.
But when I get it, I have my people get an estimate on everything.
Yes.
So I think it depends on how your realtor works.
Well, that's what I mean. So for my buyers, and I actually teach a inspection class with one of the inspection companies here. My thought on that is this. If I have a buyer who says they want you to fix 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, I want to say how I want it done, who I want it done with, and get the opportunity to potentially use my people. But the other part of that is now I know what's wrong. 2 reasons. 1, the seller may not have time, may not want to, may not have any access with the agent to help them to get these quotes. And if it's a reputable company, we're done much quicker. Here's who has said what they need to be done. But number 2 is the people who don't do that and they send over the response and say, seller, please have this, and this, and done. When the seller comes back and says, my person says it's not necessary, you've put the buyer in the position to go, well, how do we know that? We didn't look into it. So that's why I do all my full, here's what we found.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons why I don't do it is I leaned on my vendors so much. I can't imagine sending them out there for just a bunch of ancillary quotes personally. That's just me, just because
That's why I asked to use them. And normally sellers will say yes. I do find that they will say yes.
No,
because-
I agree with that.
yeah.
I totally agree with that. And that's why I actually really liked that somebody did it. I thought it was high by about $1,000, but
It's
the
a starting point, right?
Well, the cool part is like I just sent it to my guy.
Yeah.
I was like, here you go. You know, like go put
I
eyeballs
think every
on it. but you're
seller's
good.
different too.
Yeah.
Some people may think it's aggressive or over. I mean, I did have one where the buyer's agent literally came to the house like 7 times with wanting all these quotes.
I've had
And my
one of
people
those.
were just like,
Over it.
I am tired. Like we're just trying to pack. So I think it's also just depends on how it's done.
Yeah, we had one like that, and instead of it all getting scheduled, like we listed it, and I mean, there's just so many contractors that got brought out, and it was just very frustrating. Because like, can you not just schedule people better to like get them all on the same day or something
But
like
it's so
that?
hard.
It is so
It's
hard.
so hard.
It
It's
is
so
hard.
freaking hard.
It's the measuring that my sellers get mad about. Can we come and measure? Oh, can we come back and measure again? And how do you kindly say no?
Yeah.
Like it's been a bit of.
Well, that's where you hope you have a good buyer's agent on the
Yeah.
other side. I mean, I kind of tell my people, you'll be back at the home inspection, and if you need a reinspection or the final walkthrough, but if you need paint colors, you need measurements, you need carpet samples.
I can get
like,
away with it
try
once.
to take all that. Like, let's do it one time.
Yeah, I just it's.
yeah.
I've dealt though with like.
But
when
people
we-
aren't prepped.
No,
Yeah.
we go back to agents, and I had an agent, and she was a great agent to work with, but you know, like it's like, hey, sending you an inspection response. I was like, okay. She's like, there's a lot on here. I was like, all right, well, I'll look at it. And she's like, so I called her back after I looked at it because there's just a bunch of silly stuff in my opinion. I mean, it's not up to me; it's up to the buyers. I get that, right? And it was kind of like, I've been doing this long. And as soon as somebody tells me how long they've been doing this, I'm like, great. And like, I've never had one fall apart over inspection. And like twice now, 2 different agents have said, cool, like just explain to us why it's not a thing in your response. And I'm like, what? Like one of them was like asbestos tile in a 1920s house. And I was like, yeah, like I'm not going to pull that up. You know what I mean? Like it's fine. Just don't touch it. I mean, it's basically concrete until you start messing with it, right? It was like, cool, will you put that in your response to explain that? And I'm like, are you kidding me, man?
Well, I think it boils down again to the confidence level of the agent. I
Yeah.
mean, you know.
Because the response was, well, what happens when you walk on it? I was like, nothing.
Right.
Like that's not how this works.
That's what Google's for. Here's my
Yeah.
Google response.
Right.
What do you think about the? I have one. This had nothing to do with it, but I've a couple of times because I've sold some houses, quite a few houses this year that are like I don't know 1920s and 1940s, right? And so just in the city in the loop, and the asbestos wrap on ductwork, and I'm like, man, it's fine till I start taking it down. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
you
just
know?
don't bother it. Or asbestos in the attic. For that, you just encapsulate it with, you don't take it out. I've had agents,
Asbestos and mold are the ones that like you really got to know.
but I've had agents say they need all the asbestos taken out of the attic and they want new insulation. And I'm like, that's definitely not what you need to do. But they're adamant about it, and it's fighting against things that. It's like, who told you this?
Yeah.
The company that wants the business, or you're just making this up? Did you really look into it?
And
So
sometimes it's
anything.
the inspectors. Like I'm specific with who I use on
Me
inspections.
too.
Yeah.
You know.
It always sees, when you see an inspection come through, a company come through you've never worked with, you're like, oh boy.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just all interesting. Yeah, so I like having like other people on just to see, especially people that I look up to and trust. I'm like, am I the crazy person out here? Because she and I talk about it all the time, but she and I are very specific type personalities, so it's nice to have somebody that's calm, cool, and collected come on here.
You think I'm calm, cool, and collective?
I think
love
that's
that.
what you portray. How's that?
Thank you so much.
But
I
then
think
again,
others that know me may disagree, but
that's all right. I think people think I'm calm, cool, and collected. I'm like, man, it's a shit show back here. Like, I don't know, but I don't know. It's just
Let's talk about Sweetwater.
Yeah, I want
Yeah.
to talk about that because we were talking about how the market is like pivoted, but is it really? But like I think we're
Compared
fine.
to here,
Yeah.
it's a different market.
Yeah.
Totally.
And during COVID, like,
Yeah.
dude, it went. It was.
I mean,
the
I was
first
living my
market
best
to
life
explode.
down there during COVID. I'm not going to lie. I would have to be very cautious on what I told people where I was because I could work down there from the lake and just hit submit and do all kinds of purchase agreements from that lake. And I sold a lot of houses down there. And honestly, Shelly had a place down there. And I feel like when she sold her place, that really started to set the record for, she had the highest sell down there for many years. And then
wanted to
after
buy
that, it
that
just kind of
house.
climbed.
I know. I want to buy it too if we can have it back now.
But I mean, I was just like, oh my God, how did she get that? And then it just
She's
now it's
watching
the
market,
norm.
but now that's
norm.
nothing now.
But I think lake places and places with land, those have become just the places to be.
It's
too.
the staycation of 2020. Everybody wanted.
Absolutely. And I think it did open where a lot of people had their kids doing things differently and slowing down. I think it's harder to go back to that time because life has gone like full Zoom now. But at least the core values of a little bit of that in some families have come back. I honestly have seen where so many people have bought down there. And as of last year, I think more people are getting back into the office. Yeah. Sports have been in full swing now for a few years. And that lake house market is not getting used like it was.
So people are starting to drop them a little, to move them.
I think there's more. I think this is the first year people realize, like, you know what? We're back to a total new normal, and our normal is not going to fit this lifestyle.
Yeah, I was curious what your thoughts are because obviously I still watch it as well and still sell a few down there, but nothing like you're doing at this point. The market seems to be slowing down a little bit, and prices seem to be leveling, if not lowering, just a little bit.
But rates are high-ish. Well, I mean,
that was always the thing.
But
second home normally.
That's what I mean. So, a secondary property is going to be a higher rate than a primary residence.
Most of the houses down there, honestly, are cash.
Really,
I've found 9 out of 10 of them are probably cash buyers. But I think it's the world we're in right now. Whatever your political belief is, people are a little on edge and holding their money a little tighter.
Yeah.
So,
and that could be our market anywhere,
right. And I just think the second home market is probably going to be affected first, like it does in anything. But they're still selling. They're coming on, but it's very, very time sensitive. I mean, as soon as the kids hit school, I flipped a home down there 3 years ago, and it was like crickets August 5th. I was like a little worried. It did sell, but the summers just keep getting shorter too. But they're selling. There's more on the market. I think Shelly was telling me some stats she had.
Well, the stats for Sweetwater, just wanted to look back like we normally do with up here. Currently, what hit the market this past 7 days was 0, and then 1 did pin this past 7 days. But active on the market right now is 16. Now, I remember.
That feels like a lot.
I remember when there used to be 30, 40, or 50 at any given time. This is waterfront only and down there. Average days on market of those 16 is 95, and the median's 88. So it's taking about 3.5 months to sell, which isn't a really long time, I don't think, but that's what in the past 30 days, 2 have sold. So that to me seemed like a little bit slower. But yeah, I remember when we were down to like 7 or 8 active on the market, and that's when they were selling so fast.
Oh, yeah.
But the prices went up from COVID 2021. Those prices just
they doubled. Most of those homes doubled.
Went crazy because people were like, I'm going to move to the lake. I'm going to work from the lake. I'm going to have a lifestyle of where I can't go anywhere anyway because I can't enjoy it.
Yeah.
And let's call for what it is. It's the best lake locally, in my opinion.
Cleanest lake in India.
Yes,
both
really
lakes,
is.
Cordier and Sweetwater.
Yeah.
We have
it's
both
not
of them.
insanely heavy, like with traffic. You know what I mean? It's
very laid back. Beautiful Brown County, Nashville,
it's prettier.
IU.
Yeah, you get out to like Raccoon. I love Raccoon Lake. Like in the morning, it's like glass. It's so smooth, but you're really far away, and it's not as like cute and quaint, right? And then Morris and Geist are just totally different animals altogether.
Yeah,
anyway,
it's a different scene for sure.
Yeah.
If you want we've got a Mastercraft, but there's no jet skis. I like the rules and regulations because I have kids and I want them to be able to go out and be safe. I want them to be able to drive it.
There's a reason for those rules.
But we drove into Nashville. My younger son's at a camp down there about 15 minutes away, and I can go back and forth, like no issues. But ironically, I on my second home down there, and Shelly actually sold my first home, and that was in 2015, and we had a total like normal transaction. It's a lot to actually sell those houses down there. There's a conservancy. There's lots of rules and regulations.
There's lots of rules, and that's one thing we've talked. I don't mean to interrupt, but the rule part of it is I remember all the time when people would come in and sell from a different area. They could miss a lot.
Oh, 100%.
And representing their buyer or their seller on either side is a disservice. And these are the markets where we talk about, can you go sell in Martinsville? Would I or wouldn't I? I could, but I really don't do that kind of stuff. But coming into a market like that has the conservancy and all those rules and the different taxes and whether or not you can add a bedroom on or any of that stuff, there's a lot there that could cause a lawsuit in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah.
But I think if you're a good agent, you can still do it because you would be good enough to do the research going into it.
Well, and
Some of it's not even researchable, if I could say that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is just being in the local environment, or at least being smart enough to be really good buddies with the people in that local environment. I mean, I'm like that too, where there's certain areas I just know I need to refer you to someone else because I want to make sure you get the best service. But they measure your boat.
I was going to say the boat situation, how many people have bought the wrong boat because nobody knew to tell them?
Yeah, they look at your motor. But I am seeing that, they also market them differently down there. Lake houses are their own beast. Like, they say it's a 4-bedroom, but it's actually only 2 because it has a closet and egress window. And if you don't know the lake scene, it probably won't be counted officially for value.
Or it's
but
going
the
to be
value's
taken
there.
down by the Board of Health
Yeah.
because you do have to check with the Board of Health to see if it's truly a 2-bedroom house.
You've got a basement with bunk beds down there that's finished.
And
they're
it
calling
can't be
a bedroom
counted.
or-
But the Board of Health will take that listing down.
And Brown County, every county's different.
Yeah.
And to her point of like the septic and all that, it's important to know all the rules because it's not even just at the lake. They have a lot of rules.
Yep.
And our septics have to be pumped every once in a while. But
and it's hard to get septics out there. I've sold a Brown County house, and it was it was a nightmare just to get somebody out there for septic.
Well, that's just it as well. If you're a seller, a listing agent, or a buyer's agent, is knowing what vendors you can work with down there.
100%.
That will come there because you're not going to get any Carmel person to come down there very, very easily. Or they're going to pay a trip charge. But there's very good people down there that do this every day, and you need to know who you're working with as well.
Can you wakeboard? I know that.
Oh my God, I've taught everyone in my family, all of my
You're
kids.
the one who
I am
taught
the
them?
wakeboard instructor.
Seriously?
Yes. Yeah.
So I can do it. I've got a buddy who's got one. I've done it a couple times up on Morris. I can do it. I can't do, I don't know if it's because I'm old or not coordinated.
Come on down. We'll get you right up.
No, I don't know how to do all the tricks.
I'm videotaping.
You have not been taught by Stacy Barry yet.
I think so. I can do it, and even I've been like, hey, I could throw this rope.
Yeah.
But I don't want to, just in case.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no, that's totally
So
loose
that's
and slack.
surfing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What was it called? Wake surfing.
Okay, yeah.
So wakeboarding's easy. Wake surfing. Is what I'm
so
talking
wake
about.
surfing, yes. But they just banned wake surfing at the lake, actually.
What?
Because
So you need
they
to
have
know
the
this.
rules.
Because of your kids.
Not because of my children. Although we are the aqua boat that everybody knows because we're out 24/7. But it's a smaller lake, and they're trying to keep it so the erosion.
Yeah.
It's just they let all these people go out and buy these boats, and now people are grandfathered in. So the people who are
Still
grandfathered
happening.
in are known just because they have the boats. But
That's awesome.
yeah, my older son is amazing.
Yeah.
And people will
he's
ask
doing flips
Hudson
and crap,
if
dude.
he can
I'm
teach
just
him,
like-
and he's like, my mom taught me. I mean, I can't do flips, but I get in the water with them, and every friend that comes,
That's
it's
awesome.
fun.
That's awesome. I want my son and my daughter to learn because I love that stuff. And wakeboarding though itself is actually not that hard. You just got to know how to get up, and then you're fine. You know what I mean? And you just have to push into it, and you'll be fine. But wake surfing was just way different because it feels like
I like
feels less
wake surfing
controlled.
better though because when you fall, you just kind of sink.
correct. Instead of because you don't have the rope.
It's better for
pulling
the
your
older
face
over
first into the
40-year-olds.
water.
Yeah,
Because I know. Who's on Morris? You would know this.
Andy Scheetz.
Yeah, because I was talking to him, and man, he's blowing 2 knees out just wakeboarding or whatever, because
Now that lake is different because it's just busier.
It is.
I wouldn't be doing anything
Yeah.
like that behind my boat, but
Yeah.
I know people do it.
That's my favorite lake up here. I prefer
Yeah.
it over Geist personally, even though Geist is a little bit bigger. And I live 2 minutes from Geist, but I prefer Morris personally. I just like the more laid back atmosphere around Morris personally.
And selling on Morris and Geist is also another.
I can
It's a
tell
ton.
you where the low spots are.
Yep.
and you
up
need to
across the
know-
causeway and how it dries out on the north side.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing.
So all of that's really important, and buyers and agents, or agents, buyers, sellers, all need to understand. You need an agent who can be there to be your advocate and understand what you're selling and what you're buying. I remember when we went and looked at a house when we were first looking for a Sweetwater. We didn't know about Sweetwater, but we went to a lake. And I'm sorry, I'm going to blank. It's the one that drains every year on the southwest side of Indiana. And they drain it every September and put the water back in March. And I just happened to ask the agent if the water levels change. And I don't even know why I asked that because that I wasn't a lake person at that point. She's like, well, yeah, in September we drain the lake. And I said, so I'm going to be sitting here and looking at dry land for 6 months? And she's like, yeah, but it comes back around Memorial Day, maybe the middle of June. And I looked at her and I said, when were you going to tell me this?
Yeah.
Like, that should be something in the marketing or whatever. But could you imagine if I didn't ask that question and I just showed up with no water one day? But these are the kind of things I say that happen at Sweetwater and Cordery. Or even Morris, like you said, is your house in front of something that you're purchasing? Do you not know by not asking? Because the agent may not offer the information you need to know.
Well, a lot of these communities, too, with any neighborhood, wherever you are, but specifically on the lakes, there's a lot of like architectural committee guidelines with your dock can be this large, your lake frontage is this, how big can your party deck be? And that's where you really need to be in with like somebody on the board, someone in that specific conservancy, and even a contractor. Because like before we ever did a project or tried to get anything approved down there, I just took my contractor with me. I'm like, you just stand up, you know exactly what to say, show them what we're doing, and it's legit. And then, you know, you just get through easier.
Well, I remember a conversation when I was selling a property. We were already under contract, and this was one where they asked if they could come in and bring their contractor. And she said, yeah, they're coming in because they want to measure and take out that wall, and they're going to add a third and fourth bedroom to the house. And I said, I can't unhear that. I said, if they're buying this house to add those bedrooms, I said they can't. And they're like, why not? We went into that whole conversation. Well, they ended up having to buy a house that they couldn't use the way they wanted to. But as an agent too, I mean, you just hearing what people are saying, and like,
well, we don't disclose the septic regulations down there. Like if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Some of them are unreachable
But there's
information.
I mean, you can't change the footprint of the house. You can't add bedrooms. Like there's just some things that I feel like most people know down there.
No.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
No, not if you're. I mean, people may know. Like I said, if the question wasn't asked, you may not know. Why? As an agent, I could just see where they would say, somebody says, I want to add a bedroom, or I want to move this wall, or I want to do anything. We hear that all the time up here, right? Look, we're going to do this modification to the house.
Is this load bearing?
Yeah. So you don't think anything about it. It's fine. It's your house, right? But down there, if you start to hear these questions, if you don't know that that's something you can't do, you're going to keep hearing those questions. And you as an agent now get to all the way to the closing table when their contractor calls and says, you know, we can't move forward. You're going to court.
Yeah. Well, taxes are a big thing too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, not just down at Sweetwater, but, you know, some of them, people have their lots married. I mean, our old property, which I bought down there, and it was an awesome house, but oh my God, it was on 3 lots. We had 3 tax bills.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, it was a lot. And I was like, we lasted a few years. I'm like, we need something a little different. And we definitely were looking for a house that was like on 1 lot or had married, you know, whatnot. But people think, oh, this is great. There's all this space. And it's like, the trees are a beast. I think that's one thing people don't look at.
Every storm that comes through, you hope to God it didn't land on yours.
Well, and even up here in Carmel, those mature trees, I mean, the water gets so saturated into the ground locally, before you know it, they're down. And it's expensive.
Yeah. Married and unmarried is a very good term to know as well, even if you're not selling the lot. But people see the extra lot at Sweetwater, and I don't know how many times they're like, oh, I'll just sell that lot off. I'm like, no, you can't. Don't buy this property to sell a lot. It's married. Just a lot of terms like that, just to know what you're doing and talking about before your client ends up with something they didn't want or can't use the way they want.
Well, I love having you on. I want to have you on for more just because, like, I don't know, we just get on here and we like to talk about the market and different real estate things, and it's just fun for us. It makes everybody smarter. That's the whole point of it. And there's just so much that people take for granted and they don't know. And then what ends up happening is
nothing on purpose, right? It's
no,
like you
but
just
people
don't
like
know.
us catch the flack of like my agent sucked, right?
Yeah.
And like we're the ones who hear those kind of comments, you know, because I think people, especially you two, especially I've been doing it long enough now, not as long as either of you, but where I have people come to me as like, I don't know, like I'm the agent they're replacing their last agent with, right? Like that's generally what I run into a lot these days because I've been doing it like 8 years now. And so I'm running into that, and you know, the stuff I hear from their previous experiences, I'm just like,
Isn't that sad?
It's
I don't know
scary.
what to
I
say
mean,
to
there's
that.
so many people that kind of give realtors a bad rap.
Yeah.
and it's realtors.
It
that
is.
give realtors a bad
Right,
rap.
right, exactly.
Right. Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so so we were talking about the market and like whether it's trending one way or another. considering like what the week was like with the heat for the weekend at least, and with the Pacers and all that stuff, you know, like the numbers actually look good. They're trending in a positive. I guess it depends on which side of the fence you're on. If you're a buyer, they're trending the wrong way. If you're a seller, they're trending the right way. For me, I just want it to be, I kind of want it to just stay in an area. And so then it just feels normalish. And like what I don't like is when we're pivoting constantly, because then they can never really tell what's going on with the market or how people should react.
You never know what to tell your clients, right?
That's right.
I
That's
don't know.
100%. Like, when's it going to sell?
Right.
I know, in a day or 9 months. I have no idea, right? So Fishers, for example, we had 47 go on the market last week, anywhere from 265 to 1 million even. 40 of them are still on the market, so only 7 pended that went on the market. So 7 pended within that 1 week period. But 31 of them pended, so there was a ton of traffic. You know, we did pick up inventory, which is nice. There's 237 on the market. Average days on market for the ones that pended last week were 30 days. The median was 18, but for everything that pended, it was 20 and 9. So that that's going down. So a bunch of the stagnant properties have been moved off of the market to a certain extent. And then in Noblesville, I had 46 go on the market, anywhere from 180 to basically 1.3. There's 218 on the market right now. 38 are still on the market, so only 8 pended. So it's like, it doesn't feel like a lot is selling within a week, but 35 actually pended last week. Average days on market is 25 and the median is 19. And then for everything, like excluding just the week, everything that's currently pending, the average days on market is 32. So the weirder, so like the pending average days on market is going down. And I'd have to look real quick. So for active, if you're active on market, I mean, it's 48 in Fishers and it's 64 in Noblesville, but the medians are both like 33 and 27. So I mean, it just kind of seems like you got about a month.
30 to 45 days. Just
2 months, kind of worst case-ish.
Not calling me when it's been 3 to 4 days on the market and what's going on, because that's not happening. You know, talking about my comps, the stats for Carmel, 46 hit the market. Only 17 of those pended in the first 7 days, but 17 did. Right? We keep saying some will, some won't.
That's a lot.
But 36 of those in that 7 days. 36 total pended. Average days on market was 17 and 6. So the average is 17. That's 2.5 weeks. That's for the last 7 days. Sold past 30 days, 161, and their average days was 21 and 5. So we're looking under 30 days in Carmel. And then
I think those are good numbers for Carmel, and
very
that's one of the
good
busiest
That's
markets.
good
You know,
numbers.
you were just talking about the house that you had. Like that was kind of like what you experienced. You know.
And it's fine.
And it just takes one.
Yeah.
Like we just need one.
I don't
good
need
one.
30 people in it. I need one who wants it.
Remember when we'd have 60 to 70 people traipse through the house in the first 24 hours? You don't want that done to your house, because only one person, well, maybe 7 people gave you an offer, but still, you don't need that many people just coming through the house. It's better this way, promise. So active currently in Carmel, there's 188. So the sitting houses right now, the average days on market is 76. So the median is 29. That came down from the past couple of weeks, like we said. I think that 4 to 5 weeks we've been talking about is calming down. We're never gonna get back to this sold in 2 to 3 days every single house that hits the market. So leaving the averages is the word to use. Westfield 35 hit the market. 12 of those pended in 7 days. A total of 35 did pin, so we lost inventory. We're even Steven there. 27 average days on market, 13 median for what sold in the past 7 days, or pended. 143 sold in the past 30 days. Average days on market 30, a median 8. So we're just again staying under that monthly mark. 250 currently active with the active days on market 62 and median 40. And again, in Westfield, that includes all the new builds. So I think that's a really good number too. Just 60 days on the market for average. Zionsville 13 hit the market. Only 5 of those pended, but a total of 15 did pin. So we lost 2 in inventory. Average days on market for them for 15 and median was 10. 66 have sold in the past 30 days in Zionsville with an average of 19 and a median of 4. So under 20 days in Zionsville. Active currently in Zionsville, 86. Their average days on market a little higher of 80, median 47. So some of them are still sitting out there. But I agree to what we've been saying is the market seems to have been steadied out a little bit compared to what we were seeing, where it would seem to be stagnant, no showings. Showings may be less, but that doesn't mean it's not good showings. I think maybe the thing to think about now is the people coming through the houses today are the serious ones.
Yeah.
We don't have the tire kickers anymore.
I'm getting second showings with very legitimate follow-up questions.
Yeah.
Which I love that. I love that.
And I think your numbers, and I know you guys do a lot more of like the Hamilton County, but even a few I've had in Marion County, I think we are really back to before COVID stuff. Like the areas that are not tied to a school system that people really want to be a part of, I think are going to be a little bit slower overall.
I agree. And I think, the interesting thing about all the numbers is like, especially with Westfield. So because rates are higher, I think builders are kind of doing well to a certain extent right now because they can offer so much. But I'm curious, like, Fed still says they're going to do 2 rate drops, right? Like, it's obviously not mortgage rates, but like it's loosely affiliated. So if that starts to come down, and I know that there's a new Fed chair that goes in next year, like who knows what's going to happen there. Like, we could just pivot a little bit, I think we're going to stay in the same numbers. It's just like what's getting eaten up. Is it new construction or is it resales? And honestly, like, for me, like, I prefer resales. Obviously, like, I love new construction as well, but I think that's a specific demographic. I've been a part of that demographic before that wanted to do new construction, but it's not for everybody. To me, like, you do new construction because you're about to live there for 10 to 15 years, right? Like, that's just how it works in my head. And resales are a little bit different with that, in my opinion. So, like, I tend to see people stay in a resale 7 years, So, I don't know. It's just kind of interesting, and I'll see how it, like, plays out over the year. It doesn't super matter, but...
I will say I've been seeing a little bit more bonus action from realtors lately, like and that
The builders.
I think that's becoming something to show that maybe it's slowing down for them as well, just a little bit to do that. But their rates are always offered a little bit lower,
which never makes sense to me because, like, I have a buyer, I don't have a buyer. I'm never going to push a buyer because of a bonus or something like that. I get a text and be like, "Hey, we're offering this on new construction." It's like, cool. Like, I guess if it lines up, it lines up.
Of the people I've worked with, the builders have been really the only avenue they can use. Because if you're looking at 400 or below in Hamilton County, Boone County, you have to go with the builder a lot. I mean, they offer the
and everything.
Well, and they offer the buy down
ability.
They're getting people in at 5%.
Yeah.
Get the
They
warranties.
pay their closing costs. So
No
it's good to
multiple
just
offers.
know the availability and the resources we have to share with our clients.
Yeah, to open it up to that, because I do know many times a buyer has said they want to go look at houses and new builds, not even in the realm of possibility, not even thinking about it, and then like, oh really? And I've turned people over to new builds that had no desire to do new builds. But
I've got a
in the
couple
end,
right
it
now.
works.
Last time this year, I was swimming in new construction.
Yeah.
I really was. It's really weird for the rates basically be the same, and it's like it just doesn't feel as much this year.
Well, it wasn't
as
as
last year.
competitive too,
Yeah.
like with all the multiple offers. I mean, I had to hire part-time help from like 2020 to 2023 just to help me with all my new construction contracts.
Really?
Just to keep people organized and the construction managers on the same wavelength.
And people don't use agents for new
and
build,
they
and that's,
totally need a realtor.
Yeah.
Like that's a whole
Like,
nother conversation.
Yeah, we've had it. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
That was
Give your
awesome.
information out. So if anybody wants to get a hold of you or get something in Sweetwater, they can give you a
Well,
call.
sure. So I'm Stacy Barry. I'm with Century 21 Scheetz. My cell phone's 317-507-2989, or you can just Google Stacy Barry, and I will be right back with you.
Google you. That's how you know you've made it when you can be Googled. I'm Kyle Morris with Morris Property Group and FC Tucker. My number is 317-649-5122. Google me at your own peril.
Shelly Walters with the Shelly Walters Realty Group and FC Tucker, 317-201-2601. Talk to you next week. Bye.